Over on the side desk, we have Frodan and Greetorp with the North American Star League's Rewind, taking us through the action from yesterday's games.
Thank goodness they repealed that. But I'm not going to go in there anymore. I don't know where it's going, and I don't want to know where it's going. Let's talk about yesterday's games.
That's right. Yesterday we had two great sets of games. We had Night End versus DiMaggio, and we had a great TVT to close out Masa versus Alive. The games that were supposed to happen yesterday as well, Huck versus Maro, is going to be played later today, so we won't be covering those. But let's get into the first action, starting off with DiMaggio versus Night End.
Now, DiMaggio, his patented styled Zergling Baneling, is going to showcase right here against Night End. Game number 2 on Ohana.
Yeah, we make he dropped the Banelings directly onto the army, the classic Bane Rain Stain from DiMaggio, and completely destroyed the army. Now, Night End actually held on for a very long time. It was an all-in that was started from the 11-minute mark, and it went to like the 19-minute mark. He really kept showing non-stop aggression. But at that point, I think DiMaggio just kept stabilizing more and more. And as long as you don't let the stalker count climb, especially with Blink up, very, very effective at defense for DiMaggio.
Yeah, it was clever to actually introduce roaches as he saw Archons, or the existence of Archons, or even the threat of Archons. There might have not been any Archons there, but he knew his opponent was on 2 bases, and he just made sure he was absolutely safe throughout all of that aggression.
If you remember the way Mana beat DiMaggio on Ohana in DreamHack, it was using almost the same exact build, although it was deliberately Zealot Archon initially, even though he eventually fell back after the DT Shrine. I think from that point on, DiMaggio was able to keep calm, and it was just a really cool way to see Zergling Baneling be reintroduced after a lot of people just keep going, blindly roach to try to defend a bunch of timings. And I think overall, DiMaggio's style is just really refreshing to see.
Yeah, and you can see those really fast upgrades really kicking in as well. He got 2-2 so early, so by that time, when your opponent's on 2 base, what can they really do? It's just they're so far ahead. Let's go into our next match. Of course, it was Masa versus Live. This was a crazy series. But here we have, of course, the TVT. And for the longest time on Daybreak, Alive was actually ahead.
Yeah, and even up to this moment, he was building orbital command centers, but Alive was so focused on this third, he didn't see Masa busting through the top center, and he gave up a huge portion of his tanks. And Marines against Marine tank is, I guess, if you're Alive, it's something that he won in game number 1, but he couldn't really take it all the way home in game number 2.
Yeah, it's not a consistent way to actually approach that composition. I mean, let's face it, Siege tanks just absolutely crush through a big pack of Marines, and you're going to see that right here. Masa, this is about the turning point where he really takes control over this game.
Yeah, and at this point, he controls the 4th, and that's just kind of the nature of TVT. You can't really ever say you're decisively going to win from a certain position. You have to play good from start to finish, and just like that, the advantage that Alive had looks like he was going to run really far away from it, with it, rather. And all of a sudden, Masa crushing through the army. The last stand from Alive was not enough, and all of a sudden, he ties the series, sending it to a very wacky game number 3, Andre.
Oh my gosh, that was crazy. It was on Muspelheim. And both of them basically proxied. We had Alive go for a Banshee proxy, but he even proxied his initial barracks. His opponent went for a Marauder proxy. You know what happens when that happens? The Marauders end up taking the cake.
Yeah, it was one of the situations where Masa said, I have no idea how to play on Muspelheim, so I'm going to proxy Marauder because I think he's going to go command center first. A very high-level strategic, I guess, counter in terms of build order planning. And Alive was not prepared. Now, one thing that was really key is to be able to stay calm and make the right decisions, because small things like if you let the Hellions up the ramp, if you're not careful with your tech structures, I think the fact that he put his starport away from his main base was also really key. Just as I'm going to build my starport away, make sure I have a way to counter the Banshee in case he came up with it. Because at this point, your mind is racing 1,000,000 miles per minute, Andre.
That's exactly right. And what's so critical about Masa's play right here is actually the SCVs. What he does with the SCVs, a majority of players are actually going to say, okay, Hellions, come on in. I'm going to try to confront you as best as possible. And they just lose him straight out. Masa intelligently just waited for all of his Marauders to come, and then his SCVs were able to evacuate.
And the last few moments of the match, Alive did find the Banshee pop out just in time, but it didn't even really matter because the Marauder count was just too darn high, Andre. And Masa would take the series 2-1 in his first series of the North American Star League, coming out with a bang.
Yeah, against the IPL4 winner. Can't complain with that. Nope. Kevin, Ben?
Root for root.
Root for root, guys.
Yeah, seriously.
Root for root.
Really impressive gameplay from Masa. Went on to say that he was really nervous in that first series. but he was able to sort of pull it together.
He went Super Saiyan.
He went Super Saiyan.
He went Super Saiyan in that series.
Super bitter.
Super bitter.